Hello everyone, Giltar here. This is the second part of my two-part review of the 1 to 144 scale R-2 Powered model kit by Kotobukiya. It's from the Super Robot Wars lineup. I did neglect to mention a couple of extra accessories in part 1 of the review. They're simply two closed fist hands, or closed hand fists, or whatever you want to call them, and an open hand. It actually has a left and right. I just showed you the right open hand. This is the left, obviously, and then it's got a trigger finger grip hand for the right hand. So in total, it comes with 5 different hand accessories. Now I'll go into my sort of pros and cons, I suppose, right now. Essentially, I'll go into my cons first. First and foremost, the model is expensive. It's $35, and it's not something that is easily found as well. I bought this model kit as well as my R1 model kit from walterhobby.com, and at the time I had bought them both on sale. The R1 was originally like $30 roughly. I got it for $24 or $25. The R2 Powered here was for $35, and I got it for just over $29. So I mean, I got a few dollars off on each, which is nice, but on a normal retail price, you know, still it's only like $5 or so extra. But $35 is quite a bit of money to spend on a model kit if you're not going to sort of like the master grade range, in my opinion. So that's one sort of con towards it, because I do think it's a little bit overpriced, as good as I think it is. Another con is the joint strength. It's not so bad for the arms, and you know, the arms themselves don't really do much anyways. It's really the legs that I see the weakness, mainly in the knees and especially the ankles. They just, with so much load bearing responsibility, the ankles unfortunately just can't keep up and support the weight of the model in some positions. So you do have to put this model in somewhat bland and plain looking poses, which isn't terrible, but the thing is that it has such great joints, especially at the shoulders, with like multi-hinge joints, and at the hips. So it's kind of a shame that you can't take advantage fully of those particularly, you know, well-designed joints in a model kit, because it just can't support doing more than, you know, sort of standard poses. So that's a shame there in that. And the sort of next on my list of cons are basically and I know it sounds silly and kind of, you know, odd, considering I really complained about and criticized the looseness of the R1 model kit, but in the R2 Powered, it's a really tight model for the most part on all the parts you put together. Very solid limbs, everything fits together well, in fact a little too well. I'll just show you something here. On the shoulder cannon assembly, there is a component that you basically have two round pegs on the cannon part, and there's sort of the peg component that you sort of plug it into. Well, I was putting this model together for a test fit, just to see and make sure everything fit all right before taking it apart at some point to do a painting. However, when I removed the peg component, it snapped off one of the pegs, and it's because they're just so tiny and fragile. Like, no matter what you do, a tiny peg like that will break. And even on a sort of even a well-designed fitting that it fits okay, not too tight, not too loose, it's bound to snap at some point if you just do something wrong. On this model kit, every part is super tight, which is great for stability and durability of the model kit, but it's terrible if you ever want to, you know, change a part or take it apart to do some painting. So that is something you guys should watch out for. If any of you guys buy this model kit and plan on painting it, put the parts on, if at all, and do it so very loosely. From that breakage, I learned to put most of the parts on very loosely. Like, there's just a noticeable gap between the cannon here of the two halves. I left it there because I didn't want it to be fully snapped together, because I didn't want to break it when I take it apart to paint. The same thing goes for these side white and red components. They're very loosely attached, so that they don't snap off later on when I want to take it apart. So yeah, it sounds kind of funny, but the tightness of this model kit is in a way also a detriment. The third and final sort of con or negative point of this model kit isn't the model itself, but rather Kotobukiya's approach to designing the runners. One big complaint I have of the Kotobukiya kits I've dealt with so far not only in the Super Robot Wars lineup, but also in the Mode Lock lineup for the Falk model I put together and reviewed. The placement of the sprues are just terrible. They're extremely close to the model parts. Often you barely have enough room to clip the model part from the sprue. You're often risking damaging the part by accident. Another thing to look out for is just the way that the sprues not only are too close often, but they also, for some reason, Kotobukiya chooses to place the sprues at just the worst possible points on the part, where they're exposed areas where, you have to be really careful in terms of trimming down and sanding off the nubs of the sprues to make it, a smooth, uniform surface so it doesn't look obtrusive. Kotobukiya doesn't have to place the sprues where they do. For some reason, they just do it that way. So I just think it's really poor design in terms of the part molding. That's one issue I have. And for me, it's a detail I don't overlook at all. The experience of a model kit is in putting together the model, taking the parts off the sprues, off the runners. Everything involved I look at as an important part of the process. So poor sprue placement is something that I really criticize. So those are the cons of the model. The good points, though, are, in my opinion, very good. I just love the design. It's very chunky, robust, durable, stable design. It has heft to it that's surprising for a plastic model kit. All the parts that you have to put together, where in the R1 made it very unstable, Kotobukiya seemed to really learn their lesson. And in the R2 Powered, everything just feels very tight and secure. Like, I wouldn't know that this was, like the legs are probably made of 20 components or so. I wouldn't know that just by touching it and just handling it. They're very strong and stable, so it's a great improvement, and I really appreciate that, considering that Kotobukiya Super Robot Wars model kits tend to have, from what I've seen so far, sort of a reputation for very loose parts. So this kit actually has very, well-designed parts that fit together very well. So that's a great point. Another thing I like about it is just the way that, and it sounds kind of funny, but the sculpting of the fixed posed hands, I really like the way that Kotobukiya sculpts these things. I think they look very good. And even the way that the sort of trigger finger hand grips the cannon or the rifle handle, it's very secure. There's no chance of it falling out or sliding out. It doesn't slide or wiggle around in it. And it doesn't even have like a finger that loops through anything to provide extra securing of the rifle handle. It's just a really nice fit. And I didn't mention this in the R1 review, but it also, if the handle would stay in the rifle, the actual hand or trigger finger hand that it has on that model kit are very good too. They hold the weapons well. So that's another thing I like about this model kit. So overall, I would recommend this model kit provided you had the money to spare. Because again, that's the main con or negative point of this model kit, in my opinion, is the price point. It's just very expensive for what it is. Even though I think it's a great product, it's expensive. There's no way around that. I mean, it's expensive to me. I'm more used to like the $15 average of a high-grade Universal Century model kit, or your standard Gundam model kit of the high-grade range from Bandai. So I think a $35 model kit is pretty high there. Even though I think this is, you definitely get it. I mean, this does not feel cheap. It's almost like a toy, an action figure, in terms of its sort of hand feel, the tactile feedback you get from just handling the model kit. So I definitely recommend it if you have the money to spend. I hope you enjoyed this review. And up next, which I'll get probably later on today, probably tomorrow, is my Art 1 review, the 1:144 scale Art 1 model kit. So far, one good model kit from Kotobukiya's Super Robot Wars line, which is the R2 Powered, and one not so good in the R1. But as I mentioned previously, I've recently ordered the 1:100 scale R1 model kit, so hopefully that'll sort of change my mind about that particular design. So thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and stay tuned. I'll have another model review up hopefully very soon.